Hey guys, it's Antonia. We're here with Amped Up Live, and we have an amazing guest in the building here on Zoom.
Hi,
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm well. I'm well. Thank you so much, Antonia. I really appreciate the opportunity to join you on your platform. So definitely kudos for building such an amazing platform. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, thank you. Now, this is who we have here is an author named Krystle. Is it Boateng?
Boateng, yes, exactly.
Yes.
People pronounce it differently. I've heard Boateng, but my husband is actually from Ghana, West Africa, and
Sweet.
it's pronounced Boateng. Yeah.
Boateng. I like that. I like that. So tell me about yourself. Tell me a little bit. Well, where are you right now? Where are we seeing you?
I
What's
am in New Jersey. I live in Bergen County, but born and raised Brooklyn, New York. But recently New Jersey since 2017.
nice, nice. That's beautiful. Well, we're down here in the rain in my area and here in Florida. Not missing out much, Miss Chris. So tell me about the project you're working on.
Sure. So basically, I've written a really sweet bedtime story. It's a children's book. And the goal is, yes, to create a very engaging story that can be enjoyed by caregivers and early readers, but also to be inclusive of the low vision community, specifically people who have barriers to reading small print or low contrast reading material. You'd be surprised that in many of the children's books, there's not a lot of contrast or consistency in the print size. For example, so you understand contrast, if there's like a blue sky, let's say, as the background, and then they'll have like just moderately darker blue letters over that. Someone who has a visual impairment may, have difficulty reading that kind of printed material, or really stylized fonts where it's very swirly would also be a little bit more difficult for folks to read. So this is my contribution to the market to individuals who have that particular challenge.
What is
Sure.
low vision or legally blind?
Sure. So bear with me. It actually has a pretty complicated answer because it can mean a lot of different things to different people. So generally, when you think about vision loss, there's the aspects that society is very familiar with, right? So someone, whether in childhood or late adulthood or when they're maturing, realize that they have changes in their vision. They go to the optometrist, they look at the little vision chart, they, look through different lenses. One of them may work, and then boom, they get a prescription for glasses or contacts, and then their level of vision loss really doesn't impact them tremendously, right? They can carry on with daily activity pretty easily, right?
Wow.
Then there's, right, exactly. I mean, we're all familiar with someone who wears glasses or contacts, right?
Right, right.
On the other side of the spectrum are people who are not getting a lot of information about their environment visually. Chances are maybe they're only perceiving movement or objects in the room as shadows.
Right.
They might be aware of where the light source is in the room, like where the window is, if they're outside or inside, but there's really not a lot of usable vision there. So they're being accommodated with different things to maintain, an independent lifestyle, from either a guide dog or a white cane or different high-tech and low-tech devices like on cell phones and computers that allow them to do, in large part, a lot of the things everyone else does. But on that spectrum is a huge section in between of people who have varying degrees of vision loss. So I guess the easiest way to try to explain it is people think about acuity in terms of, 20/20 vision is like perfect vision, right? So on that scale, you start at 20/20, then you go all the way to 20/1000 and up, right? For folks who don't understand what 20/20 means, it's perfect human vision means that, someone can see a particular thing from 20 feet away. If someone, let's say, has 20/30 vision, it means that a fully sighted person can see something at 30 feet that visually impaired person has to be 20 feet from, and so forth and so on. So when you get to 20/70, meaning a fully sighted person can see it from 70 feet, And, with your impairment, you would still have to be 20 feet in order to see it clearly enough to identify what it is. They start to call that classification low vision, which means you have a significant amount of vision loss that cannot be corrected by glasses or contacts. Yeah.
Wow.
And exactly. And so everyone's vision loss journey is very different. So will present differently. When you think about vision, you can think about the central vision, as well as the peripheral vision. So central vision is going to be your reading, recognizing facial expressions, seeing things long distance. Peripheral is going to be when you enter the room and you're looking at someone, but you can still get information about the room from your side vision, right? So someone who's low vision could be impacted in their central vision, peripheral vision, or both, right? And lastly, the term legally blind is like basically a number that's given by the government based on, whatever quantifications they've calculated, that if you have 2200 or worse with no correction by glasses, you are then have a certified disability. And why that's significant is once you have a disability in the eyes of the government, you can receive certain benefits and resources, things of that nature. So those are two terms that you'll hear a lot within the visually impaired community. People saying either they're low vision or legally blind, central vision, peripheral vision loss. Those are the kind of terms that are thrown around. So I hope I answered that. It's a lot of information.
Definitely. I just didn't know it was that, informative to just all these types of just the broad spectrum of it. I was just really amazed.
Yeah.
It's just, you would think like, okay, no, she literally can't see, or there's a color issue, or with the vision, or it's just mildly. But no, there really is just so much more information to it.
Yeah, there is an array. And I say low vision, but I am also legally blind. I am past that 2200. Okay. And for me, it's because I have a loss of central vision. So oftentimes I surprise people because they're not able to tell just from my appearance that I have a visual impairment or that I have vision loss. So I have all of my peripheral vision, so I'm able to see all the obstacles around me. I get a lot of information about the environment around me from just, being able to see. Right. So I don't need like a white cane or a guide dog for mobility. However, when it comes time to reading small print or facial recognition or seeing things that are really far away, or even in many cases, depth perception. So when you're approaching steps, like when does the actual step drop, that sort of thing, I have difficulties with that. And, I get into conversations with people and they're like, oh, I've never met anyone who's visually impaired. I'm like, you'd be surprised.
Right. I wonder, like, did this happen over time? Did this happen over time, or were you born this way?
Well, I wasn't born this way. When I was 19, I developed an eye condition called uveitis, which is basically an autoimmune disorder. Some of the more known ones are like lupus, Parkinson's, disease, where there's some sort of inflammatory reaction that's happening in the body, localized on a particular system. And in uveitis, it's the eyes.
Wow. Okay. Now, is there any way is this operable? Like, are you able to have?
Well, unfortunately, no. It's not anything that can be repaired. I ultimately lost vision because of a complication of my uveitis.
Okay.
So, and that goes even to say that everyone's vision loss journey is so unique and so specific to whatever particular condition was the catalyst. Sometimes it could be trauma and like a car accident. Oftentimes it could be congenital, and either they're born with it and it presents at birth, or it's something that they're born with but presents later in life. There are just so many different factors.
So I also see that you're a mother of two. Are those, I'm sure that you have challenges. How does that work?
Oh yeah, that is comedy, to be quite honest with you.
You might want to start a show. You're an advocate at this point.
Yeah. And actually, I worked for many years in advocacy in the nonprofit sector, working in organizations that supported the low vision and blind community.
Wow. But that's great that you actually, you are part of that and you are experienced that and you can provide further to, assist. But yeah, tell me more about like how the challenges are.
Sure. So, for instance, with me specifically in my experience, I don't see faces very well unless I'm uncomfortably close to someone
Right.
to really make out their facial appearance. So,
Right.
for me, it's always a lot of things that moms do just on site. I have to remember to check. So when I'm dropping off my 2-year-old at nursery school, I have to remember to go in close, make sure that nose is clean. Because, you wash the face, but then they have the runny noses and such. Or, we're leaving the house and I have to remember to check and see if he's bringing one of his toys with me, because I'm not going to notice right away. I actually have to take his hand and like try to look in it and see if there's, if he's bringing anything outside of the house. So there's just, a lot of funny things that happened when, there's just certain things that are not going to be immediately apparent to me.
Okay. So tell me about your book.
Sure. So, basically what inspired the book to begin with was when I had my first son and I was in the labor and delivery department at the hospital. There's like basically a newborn baby class that they make you take before you leave. And so they're going over, the things to look for, if baby has difficulty breathing, these are the things you look for. You want to make sure that they lay on their back to go to sleep. There's a whole campaign around making sure they sleep on their back, not their stomach. And they finally closed off the meeting by saying how important early literacy is, and reading to the baby, even now at the stage of a newborn, right? Because they get to hear language, they get to learn the cadence of language, to identify words. And it really had never dawned on me. Whenever I would think about reading to a child, it was always like a child, who could sit next to you and point at pictures, but I never thought about reading to like a newborn baby. But they were saying how it's very important to start as early as possible. So much so that they provided a little storybook in like the go away package that they give you. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I open it, I'm like, I can't read that. That's really small,
Yeah, that makes
so sense. I didn't initially think, all right, well, let me write one. I was like, okay, well, I am part of the low vision community and I know where to find my resources. I know where to get my large print keyboard and my, my large print phone and remote and my TV binoculars. And, there's a whole like booming industry of things created in large print. So I just knew that there was going to be large print children's books. I looked and I did not find it. I reached out to my local library, and I was told about audiobooks. And I was like, hey, well, no, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that, I'm holding my baby and I'm reading the book. And as baby grows, I'm cuddled up with baby or toddler and reading the book. And they were like, well, we can emboss it with Braille. And so again, vision loss is a spectrum.
right.
And that is very helpful for people in the vision loss community who are on that end of the spectrum. I am not at this time a Braille user. And so, that wasn't necessarily an accommodation that would work for me. And so, I would go into the bookstores and I would look. And even if I saw large print, it wasn't on purpose. It was a style choice for maybe that page, but then the next page would go back to small print. And in addition to that, the level of contrast would change page to page. And then the location of the words would change page to page. Because as you imagine, they want to make something engaging and fun for kids. And so it's all about the artistry, but then it's creating barriers for someone like me who has difficulty kind of identifying the details on the page to begin with, right?
Right.
And so it just became one of those things that I chalked up to, okay, well, that's going to get assigned to my husband, along with, nail clipping and all the rest of the really detailed stuff that go along with mommyhood. But But then by the time, he was coming of age and, I'm sitting and I'm observing story time at night. And I was like, well, this is just not fair. I mean, I can still read. It just needs to be a large print.
Right.
And so I started toying with the idea of just making one for myself. And then I said, you know what? There's 3 million people in the US living with visual impairment that cannot be corrected by glasses. I can't be the only one having this experience, right? So I thought long and hard about it. And I said, yeah, I think I'm going to make it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be legit about it. I'm going to self-publish. I'm going to get a barcode and ISBN. I'm going to do the copyright.
Wow, so this is your actual first book that you've ever written,
Very
ever?
first book, ever.
Wow.
Ever.
Do
So
all visually impaired people, everyone can benefit from this type of?
well, see, anyone can enjoy this book, and that's how I created it. I wanted it to be something that is inclusive
Okay.
of the low vision and legally blind community, or specifically people who have barriers to small print and low contrast reading material. But I didn't want it to be something that's just for them, because I think a lot of times people look at people with disabilities as though that's your identity, that's who you are, but we are people, right? And so we enjoy the same things that everybody else does. And we wouldn't necessarily just want to have a storybook about, disabled characters, right? Because there's so much more to us than that. We're moms, we're dads, we're sisters, we're brothers, we're professionals, we're artists, we're so many different things. And then when you break into the intersections of, gender and orientation and culture and everything like that, we're all so unique, that I wanted that to reflect just what else is in the market, right? If you're looking for a sweet bedtime story, then you can find that here, whether you're print size barrier challenged or not, right? And even the family that I created in the book is a bear family, right? So this was a first book. My next book, I don't know, what direction I'll go, but this first book is a sweet bedtime story. It's a relatable story. Everybody can relate to, okay, it's bedtime, we got a routine here. We got to make sure teeth are brushed and we're bathed and got the pajamas and you get your stuffed animal and all right, settle into bed. Your caregiver, your loved one is tucking you in, telling you a bedtime story, reading you a bedtime story, maybe saying, depending on your religion, nighttime prayers or something like that. And then there's the hugs and kisses to go to bed. And then there's the relatable aspect of, all parents want the best for their child. They want them to dream big. They want them to, explore every gift and talent within them. And so there's aspects of that in the book as well. It encourages gratitude. It encourages imagination and aspiration. And these are all, broad concepts that I think just on a human level is relatable.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, your book offers a reverse contrast edition, right? What is reverse contrast?
Reverse contrast is actually when you switch or invert the contrast to, traditionally you think of a white background with Black letters for print. If you reverse that and you make a Black background with white letters, it actually is easier to read for some people in the low vision community. Myself included, actually, because with a lot of white on the page, there can be a lot of light that bounces into the eye. And depending on your condition, what might be happening inside of the eye, if there's any kind of debris, scarring, things of that nature, that light bouncing in then bounces off of those things and creates kind of a blinding effect of glare. I hope that was a good way to explain it. Yeah. So for instance, I have a large print and reverse contrast keyboard.
Oh, wow. I would like that because I like the style. Whoa.
And that is honestly the benefit of universal design, because so many times in my professional life, when I would have my screen magnified to the size that I needed to be able to read print, I would have coworkers that came up to my computer screen and would say, wow, that's really quite large. Like, can I get that on my computer? Because if I could just take these reading glasses off, right? Or if, I wouldn't have to necessarily strain as much, even with my glasses, to see certain things on the screen that are so small. Like maybe I wouldn't need it as magnified as you, but, there's somewhere in the middle there that would really be beneficial to me, right? So what I find is that when I've been getting into conversations with folks about the book, there's people who don't necessarily have any particular classification, whether it be low vision or legally blind. They're like, oh, wow, this is so great. This is so nice and large. Like really anybody who can read print can read this.
Now, I don't think I got the title of the book.
Right. So this is actually the book here. It's called Bedtime, Sleep Time, Nighttime, Dream Time, a large print bedtime story. And just to give you an idea of the size of the print.
Nice.
It's really quite large.
Yes.
If you see that.
Right. That's awesome. Now, how did you come up with the artwork?
Well, actually, I collaborated with an artist. There you go.
Wow, I like that.
Upwork.com.
Okay.
And it was actually her first time creating a book like this. And so, it was an education for her, and it was, a full collaboration. And just so you see here, the reverse contrast.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yep. So instead of the white background, you have the black background with the white text. Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
So
it'll focus on the actual white part to bring out the text more.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And as you can see, it's actually quite large. It's 11 inches by 11 inches. So
Okay.
the images themselves then are nice, big, and bold as well.
Nice. Wow. That's so strange. I really thought that in school, like growing up at elementary, maybe like pre-kindergarten, I would assume the text would be that large for, even the teachers to read, to not strain to help with
Yeah. No, it's not. I mean, I don't have any rights to anybody else's book to bring it up and show you, but
Right.
you can check, if you have kids, then the books in your house, check them out and compare it to that, and you'll see that it's a vast difference. And just one more point about the book, for my visually impaired people watching, another piece that I added was the fact that all of the text, right, is on one side of the page. So no matter where you open the book to, the text is always going to be in the same spot on the same page. So you can actually choose to sit yourself on the side of the text and the child you're reading to on the other side, right? So that you're even in closer proximity to the text to improve reading posture, etc.
I love how you cater to people that are visually impaired, and you are showing that they can benefit from.
Exactly. And although I came, or my approach to this came from, being a low vision mom, a low vision caregiver, in the process, I've learned so much in terms of it also being a benefit for low vision children, right? So in my mind, it was always, babies and young kids who couldn't read, but certainly they would need to be able to see the words on the page, to be able to learn the letters and follow them, to learn the words as their parents are reading to them. So it's of a benefit to low vision children as well. And there's all types of print barriers. People on the neurodiversity spectrum have difficulty when words are too closely spaced together. So something like this, large and bold, would also benefit them as well. So I am really proud of this work, because I feel like it's going to help a lot of people, even a lot more than I initially thought it would.
Okay, what do you think most are misunderstood when it comes to visually impairment?
Sure. So I think the biggest thing that people misunderstand about people who have visual disabilities is that there is a spectrum of vision loss, right? So as I spoke at length before about, central vision and peripheral vision, for instance, someone who has peripheral vision loss, they may need like a white cane for mobility or a guide dog, but they may also be able to sit down on the bus and read the newspaper, or see the street signs, or recognize their friend who came on the bus, right? And so a lot of people are like, oh, this person's faking. They're not really blind. Look, they can see this or they can see that. But, it's because there's a misunderstanding that either, you can see and you see everything, or you need glasses, or you see nothing at all, you see black. And that's actually not the case. Or if you're a person like me who, I just don't have central vision, and I'm able to get around normally. When I start to talk about having a visual impairment, then it's, are you sure? Well, can you see this? How many fingers am I holding up? Well, how come you can see this and you can't see that? And, it starts to become that you really do have to educate and educate and educate everyone that you meet, because unfortunately, if it's not on TV, it doesn't exist. And we don't have many characters or people on TV who are showing those aspects of a human experience, right? Of people who have vision loss. And vision loss is not new. It's kind of as old as humanity, but for whatever reason, it's an unseen experience, ironically. But yeah, I think, I'll give you an example from myself. If I'm in a restaurant, it's dimly lit. There's not a lot of contrast. Maybe it's like a tan menu. It's like script. It's very small. The letters are in like a light brown. There's not a lot of high contrast happening. So I hold it very closely to read. On more occasions than I can even recall to count, someone from another table yells over, geez, girl, where are your glasses? Girl, where are your glasses?
That's ignorant. I don't like that. Yeah.
And, it happens more often than you would think. And so, especially a person like me, that it's, there's something called an ID cane that I could carry to let people know that I'm visually impaired. It really serves no function for my mobility, but it just lets people know that, I have something visually happening with me, right? In the very beginning, it's something I considered using, but, life goes on and you're just living life, and it's just not something I incorporate into my world. But, when people don't know, they make assumptions. Right. If I go into a restaurant and their only menu is up on the wall, like way back behind the register, and they don't have a handheld menu, and I'm asking for assistance, and then they're pointing at the very same menu, I've told them I can't see. So, I think if there was just more general awareness about the fact that people live with vision loss, and there's over 3 million of us in the US. I think.
What are some ways that we can spread awareness? I'm sorry to cut you off.
No. Please stop me, because I'm very long-winded.
Oh no, I'm just curious, because I'm just sitting here and I never realized that, if I never had this interview with you, I wouldn't sit there and be like, wow, what about the person? Because you wouldn't know. I can't see. It's like you're wearing a lanyard that says help or anything. It's never that. That's never the case. So it's like, what can we do, even as a community, in our own community? What can we do to, like, what do you?
Well, I would say if you've caught this program today and, podcast, I'm aging myself. If you watched this program.
That's great. We're going to be there. We are there. This is a program.
So you definitely want to just say, hey, I saw an interesting, podcast program where I learned this about vision loss. Just talk to, the person next to you, so that next time when you see someone looking closely at something, or you see someone and you presume, oh, well, they think they're too cute for glasses, let me call them out or whatever. Take a second thought, like, oh, maybe this person is visually impaired, because I just learned about, low vision and legally blind. Or if I see someone, with a guide dog or a white cane, but then they're checking the schedule, at the bus, right? maybe before I jump to a conclusion of, oh, they're trying to cheat the system in some way, they're not really blind, to say, oh, wow, so that's one of the individuals that I learned about who are on the spectrum, that, you know, everyone needs different accommodations for different things, and that vision loss isn't just one particular experience. Like, we all are living the same life, which we're not. We're all very different in the way that our vision loss presents. And it just takes, I think, just having conversations and talking to people. I think in the beginning, I was very closed off. You know, I started to lose vision at 19 in college. I mean, that's like a tough time to begin with, all by itself.
How did your friends handle that? And even your professors?
Well, to be honest, I feel like the first person to drop the ball were my physicians. Because you know, and it's not their job to educate you about living with vision loss. It's their job to treat your condition and to give you your prognosis and your treatment, right? But they could have given me resources to the organization that could have offered me more support, right? I was in school, I finished school, and I didn't even know that there was a disability services office that I could go to for help.
Wow.
So I was in class, I couldn't see the board, I couldn't read my textbooks. I was asking for help from other classmates. It was really difficult.
How did your family pick up with it as well?
Sorry?
How was your family able to adjust, or how were you able to adjust?
To be honest, you know, I would just have to say that there's just a greater power working in all of our lives.
Okay.
And, you know, when I fell, I got carried through. That's really the only way I can speak to it. I would tell people all the time that I have angels, because when you're used to moving around in the world and you see every detail, you see every face that passes you see every sign, every restaurant, there's like so much information that you take in that you don't necessarily need, but you're accustomed to receiving it. I saw that gum on the floor that I just passed by, you know, all of those things. And then you step into a world void of detail altogether.
Yeah.
And it can make you very panicky, and you can start to feel like, you know, because the way my central vision loss presents to me is like back in the day when you would put the channel on the wrong channel and you would get that snow, that
yes.
what the entire center of my vision looks like. It looks like that white-ish pixelation.
Okay.
And so when that first came, it's there when I open my eyes, it's there when I close my eyes. There was no escaping, you know, vision loss. It is what it is. You wake up in the morning, bam, there you go. Hi, blob in the middle of my vision. So it took a lot of mental work to decide, like, okay, this is what it is. Now what's next? What are we gonna do with the rest of our lives, right? Because I'm only at this point, I was only 19, 20 years old. And so I say I have angels because I would be, you know, just walking in the world and trying to pick up the landmarks that I could remember to get around. And then all of a sudden I'd find myself lost. And I'm like, shoot, I can't read the street signs. I'm not sure where I'm at. GPS is like doing all types of crazy things because I use like the walking GPS.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, someone would just walk up to the corner on the phone, like, yeah, I'm on the corner of 34th and whatever. I'll be there in a second. And I'm like,
oh my goodness.
wow. And I can't tell you how many times that happened to me. Or, oh my God, New York City, you're on the trains, you're on the buses, and they do not call out the stops.
Right.
And I cannot see the street outside of me on the bus to know where I'm at or when to get off. Or you're on the train and the signs are like whizzing by. You can't see, you know, what stop you're at. And the loudspeaker is not playing. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be like just lost on this train. You lose how many stops it's been.
Oh man, and it's wild because then you gotta turn back around and wait on the other side.
You know what
You don't
I'm
know when
saying?
it's coming back.
And some of these stations look exactly alike. Like I'm like, okay, I remember that this station had the blue poles, but wait, there's this other station that has the blue poles too. So then out of nowhere, someone would be like a tourist would get on and be like, hi, I'm trying to get to Grand Army Plaza. And someone would be like, oh yeah, that's next stop. And I'm like, oh, that's where I am. Okay, great.
That is so awesome. You are obviously you're blessed, you know.
Yeah. I mean, and it honestly became a metaphor for life. Like you may not always know the details, but just keep putting one foot in front of the other and focus on your destination and
Yeah.
go with God, right? Walk by faith, not by sight. That has been my mantra. It's
That.
literally how I live my life.
I love that. So who can enjoy your book? I just want to know.
Really, anyone, again, it's all about reading to the babies. I did choose a bedtime story to start with because it is that intimate, home with your child, or there's all types of families. So maybe it's not, your child, maybe it's a foster child, or a a nephew or a niece, or you know what I'm saying. But you're sitting with your loved one, your child, and you are reading to them, and you're wanting them to hear something inspiring before they go to bed and think about their future and think about being grateful for the things in their life, and encouraging, the importance of routine, right? Because so much of bedtime routine is the fighting. No, I don't want to brush my teeth. No, I don't want to take a bath. Right? But it's like, look, baby bear's taking a bath. You know what I mean?
Seriously.
So really anybody who, takes care of a young child, and wants to be able to have that storytime bonding with the child can enjoy the book. And again, the large print, the reverse contrast large print, it is just to be inclusive of, the people who, cannot read that small print. This is my contribution to the market so that access can be granted, right?
Totally, totally. So now your book, you actually self-published this here.
Mhm,
What are
mhm.
some of the most challenges you face, or, you know, what do you feel that can benefit from even future self-publishers that they can take from this?
Sure. Yeah, this has all been a self-study, just trying to, feel my way through, figuratively and literally.
Right.
Um, and, I was told, oh, well, maybe you need like a book agent or something like that. And I hadn't the first clue of how to explore any of that. To me, it was the same as trying to say, oh, I want to be an actress, or I want to be a model. Like, what, how, I mean, kudos to everyone who that is their path, and it is a respectful path, and focus and you'll get there. But for me, it was a little overwhelming. So I was like, the most important thing is for it to get into my hands, and to potentially get into the hands of people who are the most underserved by the market right now. And so I said, okay, well, how can I educate myself about what are the steps that it takes to make this thing a real thing in my hand? And so there was a lot of YouTube videos, YouTube tutorials of people who self-published. And so I learned, how to go on like freelancer.com, upwork.com, to find illustrators to partner with. I mean, you pay them
Of
to
course.
illustrate the book. You share with them your theme. It's a conversation. It's not a, well, this is the book that I want, and then they just produce it. It's, well, send me some samples of the type of illustrations that you like. Okay, you say you want a bedroom. Well, what kind of bedroom, or what should be in the bedroom? What level of detail of this bedroom do you want? And I specifically didn't want a lot of detail because I felt like that would be distracting for someone who's visually impaired. Just the main important things: a bed, a window. Once we start getting into wallpaper and toys all over the floor, then we start to kind of lose, for some of us, what's actually happening in the picture.
Okay.
From there, you have to copyright, you have to, make official your ownership of that work. um, because what I didn't know is apparently your copyright is inherent the minute you make something, but you want to just register it,
Oh,
right? Make it official.
wow.
So exactly,
I didn't know. I don't know. I'm so oblivious and
yeah,
ignorant
it,
about
it was
this.
it was a learning process.
Wow.
Copyright. And then to get that barcode that's on the back of the book, there's a company called Bowker, Bowker, I believe is how it's spelled. And you get your ISBN number, and you purchase the ISBN number, you purchase the barcode, and that sets the price for your book. And it makes it that it's universal, where it could be sold in bookstores and it can go into libraries and things like that, because then it's trackable by a barcode.
Wow.
And I have 2 editions of my books. You need a different ISBN and a different barcode for, I don't want this to become a full,
That's a lot. So let me
tutorial.
ask you, what was
Yeah.
the best part of self-publishing all of this?
To be honest, the best part was the creative process,
Yeah.
just really trying to take what was in my head and articulate it in a way that made sense to the artist, and then, fishing through the internet for pictures that would somehow come close to what I was talking about, to, pair that with my verbal descriptions, to see then what she was able to come back to me with, and then the back and forth. And then just like literally when I got the sample in my hand, it was like an emotional experience for me, because it was like the first time that I sat with my son on my lap, and I read the book, and the book was like at a decent distance. Like I didn't have to hold it here where he's like competing with me to look at the pictures.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, like, why isn't this normal? Like, why aren't there more of these? And it definitely put the fire under me to make sure I get this into the market, to make sure that I follow up with additional titles. And yeah, it's been great. That to me was the best part, getting the sample.
That is beautiful. That is so beautiful. Really, really. And it's inspiring to see that, you went from somewhere that you didn't know. You went from feeling, I'm sure, hopeless, like, where can I get to what I want? And you
Right.
went from point A to point Z, and you're literally like, you're still thriving and, striving for the best. And I love that, and then from there, I'm sure you can go to, other ways to benefit visually impaired people as well.
I
Wow.
have tons of ideas in terms of like being a low vision parent, of things that need to exist. So there's a lot of avenues I can take, but for right now, it's really the children's storybooks that is my lane. And in terms of how people can get the book, right now I have an active Kickstarter campaign. I have 22 days left on my campaign. And I am funding the first printing of the book by offering pre-sales. So when someone backs me on Kickstarter at the $25 level, they get a copy of the book, a signed copy of the book, free shipping, as well as special thanks mention on my website.
Wow.
Exactly.
That
So
is
that will,
awesome.
thank you. And so that will allow me to do the first printing. And actually, printing was a bit of a challenge, because there's so many different print on demand services through Amazon, through other companies, where basically you just upload your PDF of your book. And when people place orders for your book, then that order goes through a fulfillment company that prints the book and sends it to them. And then I think you get like a percentage or something. That's the way it works. But because my book is 11 inches by 11 inches, it's a larger dimension than they offer. And it's also hardcover. So whereas it might have been not as high of an obstacle or hurdle to get over to get started through a print on demand service, I then had to go through the manufacturing side. And in order to get an adequate retail price, right? Because no one wants to spend $50 for a children's book.
Right.
I have to order in volume, right? And so volume is a huge upfront cost. And so I said, you know what? I think there's a demand for this. Let me throw up a Kickstarter campaign. Let me get the word out. Let me get the pre-sales, right? So I can order it, and then I can have it available on my website, which is www.iabilitybooks.com.
Awesome.
And you can also find out about the Kickstarter on that website as well, because the Kickstarter link is a really, really long link. So it's easier to just go to my website. I have a Kickstarter page on the website, and you can just click right straight through to the Kickstarter campaign.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. I love that. Well,
Thank you.
definitely, I definitely will spread the word and get this out there. I
Wonderful.
love seeing that, you're just inspiring. You're
Thank
definitely,
you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
motivating. Now,
Yep.
before we close it out, I do want to know what's next for Inside Ability Books.
What's next is just keeping, trying to get the word out, do, more podcasts, do more interviews, partner with other visually impaired influencers, to spread the word about this accessibility solution, right? For those who it would benefit. My IG Instagram is inside_ability_books. So, check me out. And as new things are happening, you can always see what's going on with me. But definitely more awareness, more advocacy, and more titles coming soon.
I love it. I love it. I'm so thankful to have you here.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we couldn't be here, but we're here.
Right,
I love
right.
it. I'm
And
so
again,
thankful.
thank you. I really appreciate, you allowing me to join your platform and speak. I know this is not a topic that's often spoken about in mainstream. So I wanted to do it well, and I wanted to educate but not lose people, with too much detail. So I hope I struck a good balance there.
You did great. And this is why we needed this. We need to spread the awareness and, amped up the vision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I'm thankful to have you here. This is new to me. This is new to everyone. So, and not only just that you'll, have our viewers, but we're also going to get, people that are from your side that can understand that, wow, we want to, spread everyone's words and get everyone out there,
Absolutely.
we're just here to help and just spread awareness. So I'm so thankful that, you can do this. But I do want to ask, do you
Sure.
have any words of wisdom or encouragement that you can give to someone that's also trying to, maybe get themselves to the next level, to push themselves, even if they have, some type of struggle or,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say, and it sounds cliche, but being positive, surrounding yourself with positivity, focusing on where it is you want to be,
right,
focusing on the end goal, right? So much so that you barely see the obstacles in your way.
right,
Just believing consistently in a positive outcome, right? There's all these serendipitous moments that happen in life, and you have to just be willing to take those opportunities, right? Step outside of your comfort zone. For me, believe it or not, I am an introvert and I am extremely private. So when I decided to take this journey of self-publishing a book, it became clear to me that I wasn't just selling a book. I was becoming a face, right, to a company, and I was selling myself, and I was being an advocate for a community, which all felt like, whoa.
like, this is who I want to be.
Right. But you have to step outside of your comfort zone to get the beautiful things that are waiting for you on the other side,
That's
right? So I would just say, just be willing to step out of your comfort zone and do something different and take the risk, of believing in yourself. That's the advice I would give.
that's a great message for just anyone in general that, even to myself, like, you gotta just open yourself and just take that chance.
Yeah, yeah,
Love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you never know where it'll take you, and it'll always be positive
Right,
as long as you're
right.
putting that right energy towards it.
Exactly. And keeping in mind that everything happens for a good reason, right? So sometimes that door closes and we're like, oh man, but it's because something so much better is waiting. And if you just keep putting that one foot in front of the other, one foot, you don't know how you're going to get there, but you know that this foot is going right here, and then this foot is going right here. And you just keep it going. And then next thing you know, you are where you are, and people are asking how you got there, and you're like, by the grace of God. So
You always just give thanks. That's it. Just be
amen.
appreciative.
Gratitude.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much, Krystle. I am definitely looking forward to meeting with you in person and
Yes.
getting my book that's going to be signed, because I'll be
Yes.
there. I'm ordering for sure.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. And we'll definitely share this information. And you guys, thank you for watching.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Krystle. Thank you so much, Krystle, for being here once again.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Well, you guys have a great day.
Bye. Stay blessed.